Good morning. Welcome back to another edition of the Bakersfield Business Partners podcast. My name is Duncan Harris. I'm the owner of Insurance Savings Group, and I'm your host today. I'm the past president of Bakersfield Business Partners. We're a networking group. We meet here in Bakersfield on Tuesday mornings, and we're helping our members grow their business through referrals, but as a byproduct also through education and through relationships. So we started the podcast to highlight our membership. We think that's the strength of our group, is the quality of our members. So today we've got Fred with us. Fred, good morning.
Morning.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Doing good. So just real quickly, just kind of give us a quick intro, say hi, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so appreciate that. Fred Walkover. I'm with Crescendo Coaching Group, a company that I started, and I do leadership and team coaching, working with individuals to help identify their strengths and figure out where their growth opportunities are so they can create a better version of themselves.
Oh, wow. I love it. So you work with anybody, with businesses, with who?
Typically with businesses,
Okay.
small businesses, business leaders, or larger businesses and leaders either at the top or I'll say directors, VP, really trying to show up differently and identify how they can be more effective and drive better results.
Yeah, very cool. So let's go back a little bit. That's what you do now. Let's go back. Tell me, what were you doing before you started Crescendo?
Yeah, just prior here to joining Crescendo or starting it, I worked as a senior director of operations with Power, PBC, which is a solar company, the first 100% virtual solar company in the world.
Okay.
And I ran about 160 small business installers, third parties, across 22 states, fulfilling on residential solar installations.
Oh, wow. That must have been a huge task trying to, coordinate all those different people across all the states. Oh my God. It's hard to get 8 people on a Zoom meeting at the same time. So, and what about before that? I mean, you've been, how old are you? You're
60.
You're 60. Oh my gosh. You can look way younger. Good for you. So, but you've had an experience in business.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started my business career. I got my roots at Radio Shack, if you remember years ago, in retail, and did that for about 8 years in Florida, and then switched over. I wanted to do something different. I've always been a fix-it kind of guy.
Okay.
Very hands-on. Dad taught me how to do a lot of home stuff.
Yeah.
So I switched over to the service part of the business, and I got a lot of relocations out of that. But Radio Shack gave me very sound fundamentals, P&L management, people management, that I've taken through my career. So after about 17, 18 years with the Radio Shack, I ended up moving over to telecommunications, working with Comcast, working with Charter and now Spectrum as director and area vice presidents in a number of different markets. And field operations and field service kind of became a core for me. So prior to the solar company, I was actually in West Virginia, a little bit different than California.
Just slightly.
Moved from Northern California to West Virginia. And they said, why'd you move here? Mm-hmm. But again, just leading teams across big geographies.
Yeah, very cool. So, I mean, what kind of inspired you or motivated you or caused you to start Crescendo Coaching Group?
Great question. As I took some time, paused, reflected on what's really important to me as an individual, what gives me the most energy through my career really was, the one-on-ones, developing programs, things that were benefiting others to help them grow and become better themselves. How do you set them up for success? How do you help them remove those blind spots that they have? So that if you're taking an individual contributor, let's say a top technician, and you promote them up, you don't teach them, a lot of companies don't teach them how to lead people prior to that. So a lot of the things that I found I was doing were focused there. So when I took that pause, I realized that's really what gives me my most passion and enjoyment, just seeing that impact.
Sure.
So I leaned into coaching.
I love that. Development growth. So I mean, kind of dive in now to maybe like how you might work with a client, maybe, I mean, obviously don't give away all the secrets, but maybe what that looks like on a day-to-day or week or monthly basis with some of your clients.
Sure. So first and foremost, clients need to want to do the work. right? I mean,
Okay.
try to stay away from companies that want to bring a coach in as a last resort. We really think we're going to fire them, but we'll give them one more shot and bring them a coach.
That's not what you do.
And it's not really effective.
Okay.
And because the individual needs to want to improve. It's less about giving somebody specific steps to proceed. So if you want to get better at time management, for example, or and more confidence in presenting, for me to say, here's how I do it, here's how you should do it. I mean, there may be pieces that will apply and stick, but a lot of times it's the client needs to figure out for themselves what those best next steps are. So when I work with a client, and it's typically we're meeting over a period of time, could be 3 months, 6 months, usually meeting for about an hour every other week. Some want to meet weekly, but some want to meet a little less frequently. But you have to, like every other week, because it gives someone time to try new things, experiment, take small steps in their behavior, and see the impact and reflect on it, because that's really where the real learning is. And it's all about what they want to accomplish.
So that's what I was going to ask you is what are kind of maybe the typical goals? Is it like increased sales or better team production? I mean, what are kind of some of the most common things that people are trying to achieve maybe when they're working with you, getting some coaching?
Yeah, sure. And there may be, as you said, certain business drivers that will bring someone to coaching. And when you peel back that onion, it's really looking at what does the leader own in the results. It's not just all about the team. It's how they interact with the team and how they facilitate those types of discussions. So I try to, again, peel that onion back and help them identify their specific behaviors that are going to have the most impact. So if it's if the team's not coordinating and delivering the right results, they're missing their numbers. Then it's how good does that leader set expectations? This is probably something I delve in a little bit. How do they reinforce the good behavior, the right stuff? How quickly do they drive accountability? And again, it's less about giving them a prescription on how to do that for someone who's never held someone accountable or set goals and did performance reviews. At times I do say, okay, I'm going to put my consulting hat on, because sometimes that gives the person I'm working with a little more perspective, because if they haven't had any exposure to it, they don't know what those next steps might be. But it's really to figure out what's holding them back from being able to take those steps. So
you just said something, it kind of triggered a thought, like you sometimes, or you might have to put your consulting hat on. I guess in my mind, maybe I was thinking the two were the same, coaching and consulting, but if you think about it deeper, they're not. So maybe coaching is more, and correct me obviously if I'm wrong, more personal, more psychological, more focused on the individual, where consulting's more of like an outcome-based approach. Is that maybe somewhat, is that close, or?
I would say yes and no. You're
that was a very nice way of saying no.
No, actually, because they're both outcome focused. It's just the outcome, as you accurately said, for the coaching is that individual. The outcome for the business is kind of the combination of that individual and the team, or all the different other factors that come into play.
Yeah. So tell me, what's like an ideal customer for you for Crescendo coaching?
So I really focus again on small business owners, on leaders and organizations, and on teams that really want to get super good at coordination and communication, so that they have a real consistent approach in how they learn things together, and how they approach tasks, so that the outcomes are based on a solid base of trust, on individual vulnerability, which kind of drives that trust, so that they're committed to their goals, and then they can deliver those goals. Because if something's out of sync, if there's no trust, if they're not committed to and aligned on what we're going to accomplish, then it doesn't drive the right results.
So tell me, there's obviously other coaches, right? What do you think sets you apart from your competition?
A lot of great coaches out there, right? I think what I do differently is in how I create that space for the client. I don't come to a client with any predetermined path forward. The discussions that I'll have with the client initially, and we may do some initial, I'll say, objective discovery, either with, I do a personality assessment called the Hogan assessments that looks at the whole person, their values, what are they really good at, and what are those derailers that if when they're really tired or really comfortable with somebody might come out and tip the scale the wrong way in their interactions with people. So that sometimes creates an awareness for us to identify where they want to focus.
Yeah.
And I also do 360 interviews where I'll go into an individual in a business, interview them, and then interview their stakeholders. Could be their boss, their peers, their direct reports, and get their feedback on how those people see them, and then combine all that together into a very thorough report and debrief, again, to help create that awareness. Because some clients know exactly, here's what I want to work on, here's what I struggle with. I can't hold people accountable, or when I pitch my company to investors, I'm just not confident in it. So those that don't have a specific path, these other tools can help kind of shine a light on it.
I see.
And create a path forward.
I love it. No, I love it. I love how open-ended it is, honestly. So this may or may not work. This is a common question I ask people on the podcast is like, what advice could you give to your customers? And maybe another way of asking it is like, what are some of the most common mistakes maybe you see your customers making? Like, is there helpful hints or clues you can kind of give there maybe to the business owner who's listening to this podcast and maybe they've considered coaching in the past? And like, what are maybe some of the common pitfalls, like alternatives to coaching that you see people falling into?
Well, there's a lot of different paths for solutions, right? And could be reading a book, watching a webinar, going on YouTube and seeing someone talk about those things.
Yeah.
Where they miss, in my opinion, from the value of coaching is really being able to go deeper. So if you say, Fred, I'm really struggling with holding my people accountable, right? I like them. I don't want them not to like me. And I feel kind of frustrated. Mm-hmm. And I would say, frustrated, tell me more. And I'm able to go deeper to help them realize what's really going on behind them and what's the frame, the story from who knows how long ago that they've created to keep them safe years ago that may not be serving them well anymore, and how to shift that to something more productive. And you don't get that, I'll say, just absorbing externally.
Watching a YouTube video on how to manage people or whatever.
But a lot of it's wanting to look yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
Wanting to take that pause and reflect on what did I do? What kind of impact? How did I feel? How do I want to feel differently? And taking those steps.
I feel like, if someone's going to work with you and really, for it to really be productive, you said it earlier, like they really have to be vulnerable. Like they almost have to kind of look in and say, wow, yeah, this is what I was thinking. That was wrong. You're going to help them maybe change their thinking, right? So maybe a scary place for people to go to the introspection and be like, yeah, I've been thinking this thing for 3 years and I just need to change my thinking a bit. It's got to be hard for people to do. We're so busy. We're so insecure in a lot of ways. That's
where the commitment part comes in. They need to want to be doing something different.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is more vulnerable. But that's where the reward is, because if someone's comfortable, if I don't change anything and I'm just in my cool little space, I don't learn and grow. I'm not at my learning edge. And it's only when people are on that uncomfortable edge, trying something new, that they really learn. If you want to change habits or whatever, you need to get to that point. And it's, as you said, it can be difficult for people to open up. That's what I like about what I do. creating that space, creating, making people feel comfortable just to talk.
Yeah. Well, shoot, you cut me off because that was my next question. What's the best part about your job?
I say the best part is just
Yeah.
seeing the impact,
Yeah.
right? And see the light bulbs that go off. Because I'll have clients that I'll work with, and kind of the reason and the value of doing it over time is there's patterns. There's a thing in coaching that they say the thing isn't really the thing. So you may come to me and say, hey, I want to work on, again, accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out we spend a lot of time talking about listening. And then we'll talk about how you interact with your partner, or your spouse around listening, and why is it different, and how do you want it to be different? And that translates into really more self-discovery on how you interact with your employees.
Oh man, you're making me feel so insecure now. Man. No, I love it though. It's really, for me, it's like a fresh approach, like I own a small business. I wouldn't say like I'm a huge, highly focused on like personal development, but I believe in it and I do work on it. I mostly just like watch YouTube videos, and I feel like, man, what I'm hearing from you is so different and so unique. It's intriguing. I love it. Well, what else? I mean, what else can you tell me? We're going to kind of maybe transition to talk more about Bakersfield Business Partners, but what else should we know about you and Crescendo Coaching Group?
The opportunities are endless, right? And while I'm drawn to working with leaders because I have this really strong core background in business from I'll say consulting side or consulting experience. I was also a mentor for SCORE, part of the SBA in both Northern California and West Virginia, helping entrepreneurs just take an idea. I got an idea and I want to create a business. How do you build a business plan? How do you differentiate your value proposition, financial models, et cetera? So I have that background that, again, sometimes that consulting hat comes out.
Yeah.
And does that, but that's not necessarily core for the coaching piece, but it makes people also feel more at ease that I'm coming from a business background that I can relate.
Yeah. Okay. And this may be a tough question. So you've had all this experience and interactions with businesses you've worked on. How many businesses are we talking about, do you think? Could you put a number on that, or is that not?
How many?
I mean, because you said you worked for the, SBA as kind of a...
SCORE is a group of volunteers.
So you've done all these different things, and I mean, do you have a number? Do we even know, or is it, who knows at this point?
I'll say the number of companies I've worked with really haven't been that many. I've had a number of positions as I've climbed up.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about Bakersfield Business Partners. You just joined the group, new member.
Yep.
Welcome to the group. So maybe just tell us really quick, why you joined, and maybe quickly, some of the benefits that you're seeing.
Yeah, I joined. Today, most of my clients are virtual. So I've got clients in Minnesota, in New York, in Georgia. And when I was in Northern California as a vice president of Comcast, I had the opportunity to really invest in the community and give back and network with people. And I've only been in Bakersfield for a couple of years, and I really want to invest and connect.
Yeah.
For two reasons. One, because I want to connect and I want to give back. So participating in Bakersfield Business Partners gives me that opportunity to meet just a diverse group of strong, smart business owners that are here for a purpose and care about each other. I was talking to someone the other day. It's like a family on how they interact. And
that could be a bad thing. Yeah, no. But you mean it in a positive way, I think.
All good, all good. But it creates this opportunity. And I've enjoyed being able to use that, obviously, to grow the business. I'm new. Crescendo Coaching Group started a year ago. I left corporate back in May, so I'm just now leaning in 100%. So it gives me that opportunity to share, to show what I do, and get referrals off of that as well. But it's the camaraderie. It's being able to connect and understand different businesses. My wife says now, "Oh, you know a guy," and I do got to use that reference from the Bakersfield Business Partners.
Yeah. Well, good. No, I love that. I mean, look, I've been a member of the group a little while, president for 2 years. And as I said, you grow your business through referrals. We go to the weekly meetings and everyone gets to give a 60-second commercial. So Fred might stand up one week and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. And this is a new approach I just developed and it's working great with, solar companies or whatever. And everyone gets to do that. And there's about 30 of us. And then as we're out talking with our family and friends and clients, then I'm able to say, you know what? You might be a good fit to work with Fred because he just educated me on this thing he's doing. Why don't you call Fred up, whatever. So we're giving referrals, but really there's also these great relationships that are built, a lot of camaraderie. We do these things called one-to-ones where we'll just meet individually, usually over lunch, and just kind of get to know each other personally. Hey, how's it going? And that's where these strong connections are built and trust is built. And then education, man, every week there's two presenters, and they're going in depth 10 minutes on what's new in their industry and what might be a good referral for them and what's going on and hints and pitfalls for their clients. So, if your wife is correct, you're going to know a guy and you're going to know all about taxes and insurance and everything else. So anyhow, we're glad to have you in the group, and thanks for coming out this morning. Anything else before we sign off?
Thank you. I appreciate Duncan. And again, it's so exciting to be part of this group.
Good. All right, Fred. Thanks. Have a good Friday. And until next time, we'll see you on the flip side.